What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the channel. I'm Kevin Duffy. This is Duffy Geeks Out, and I'm coming at you with my thoughts on the swirling rumors by fans. That's the only source that has said this so far. Fans for the Snyderverse characters to be sold by Warner Brothers to Netflix. I want to address this rumor because I just can't. It keeps popping up, and my Facebook is flooded with different little sites reporting their possibility of this happening, or like fans just outcry making it happen, that sort of thing. Now, where would something like this grow from, right? Obviously, there was the Snyder Cut, the Snyder Cut bandwagon that everybody jumped on to have that version of Justice League made, the Zack Snyder's Justice League, and obviously it worked. That movie was made. And so I understand that certain fans out there are thinking that this could happen too, because, hey, we made the Snyder Cut happen. Let's make this happen. I'm going to tell you two reasons why this is never going to happen. I apologize. I don't want to crush anyone's dreams. It's not my job on this channel to go out there and crush people's hopes and dreams, but I assure you, this idea that the Snyderverse characters are going to be sold to Netflix is never going to happen, and this is why. Number one, Netflix has recorded record losses over the last several years for just buying IPs, creating brand new content, just funding all these movies and shows, and not gaining any subscribers. They have pretty much peaked with how many subscribers they're going to have. Now, 15, 20 years from now, more people get raised up that need to buy subscriptions to Netflix, then maybe. But as of right now, they are literally at peak subscribers and no income coming in. And all they've done is throw money at these different projects, and they have no return for that investment. So for them to go to Warner Brothers and pay the money they would need to pay to get these characters, that is a waste of money for Netflix, and it is honestly, it's a waste of their resources when they could just be creating their own content and using that same amount of money to spread it out. Because to get these characters, you would need to spend probably $1 billion, pretty close to $1 billion for all of these little IPs that are inside of that universe, right? Because Warner Brothers would not sell you their characters for a fair amount. They would want more because you're coming to them for something they own. So there's no need for them to sell you these characters. So the amount of money you'd be paying to get them is astronomical, okay? So there's no way that Netflix would be shelling out less than $1 billion to get these characters. That is $1 billion, not including the amount of money they would need to spend to make the movies that they need to make for these, which would be hundreds of millions of dollars on top of it. So I'm sorry. Point number one is that Netflix will not afford this and should not be wasting their money on this. My second point, Warner Brothers will not sell these character rights to Netflix. Now, I know you'll probably be like, oh, but the Sony Marvel deal for Spider-Man, that's not the same thing. Sony still makes these movies, and Marvel allows it to happen because Marvel does not, the MCU did not have a Spider-Man in their universe. So it makes sense for them to be able to allow Sony to make these characters and say they're in the MCU, okay? There's a like for like there where they're allowed to use Spider-Man in MCU-related projects, and Sony then also gets to make Spider-Man movies that will make more money because of how related they are to MCU. It's a copacetic relationship. It is not what this deal with Netflix would be, because Warner Brothers does not want these Snyderverse characters moving forward, at least in the way that they currently are. That Zack Snyder's Justice League ensemble, as their stories have been led to that point, they want that storyline dead. And the reason they want that storyline dead is because they are building their own cinematic universe. James Gunn is heading it up with Paul Safran and Peter Safran, not Paul Safran. And the reason that they wouldn't want these characters to keep going is because it muddies the water and cuts down on people jumping to their new universe they're trying to build. Now, I know that I myself wouldn't have difficulty choosing between these two and understanding it, but some of the average film goers out there who aren't deep in the weeds of comic book shit like I am, like you are, who are probably going to watch this video, they might be confused as to why there are two or three different versions of all these characters floating around, right? And I understand that the Batman, and that eventually James Gunn will have his own Batman to fit in the Justice League and stuff like that. I understand that is going to maybe be confusing for people down the line, but that's part of what they're building. That's what they want. It's not another studio taking these characters and putting out their own shit without any insight into what's going on at DC or Warner Brothers. So I don't know, guys. I just can't imagine that Warner Brothers as a company would want someone else taking characters they're trying to build a universe with right now and continuing to put out product that is not of what they're building. It doesn't work. It's a lose-lose for both companies. Again, I'm not trying to be a negative guy about this. I'm pretty sure it's coming across that way. It's not the same thing as the Snyder Cut. It's not. The Snyder Cut movie was 70% filmed, and it just needed special effects done, and the studio felt like they owed it to Zack Snyder because of his loss and how he had to step away from the project to allow him to finish the movie that he intended to make. So I think that it's not on the same page at all. Okay, this is not the same thing. It's just a fool's errand. It would never happen. And I'm sorry, I know you think, well, that happened, but that's because it was 70% done. It was 70% done, and the studio was, at the time, trying to get people to subscribe over to HBO Max. So that made sense. Nobody else is signing up for Netflix. So there is no way. It's a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose for both companies. I'm rambling now, but it is. I'm sorry, guys. That's just how I feel about it. That's how you all should feel about it. I know you love these characters. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I wish he got to make Man of Steel 2. And had the old guard at WB and DC handled this properly, it would have happened. They could have built this universe the way they intended to. But they got scared when Man of Steel didn't bring back the return they thought it should have. And they got ahead of themselves, is really what it comes down to. They got ahead of themselves and told stories they didn't earn at that point in the storyline. Had they taken their time and built it out and given you the individual character stories the way that they should have, this universe may have had a chance. But unfortunately, due to bumblings of the executives and the old guard at WB, it's just never going to happen. I'm sorry. That was a lot. I apologize, guys. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel. Come at you with more content when I get to it. Bye.